Welcome to the Crosscheck, the squawk sheet that uncovers the stories, challenges, and careers shaping business aviation today. I'm your host, Rob Hoffman.
And I'm Ian Lum.
Today, we're joined by Greg Reverdiau, co founder of Pilot Institute and the face of its hugely popular YouTube channel. Greg has built a reputation for making complex aviation topics approachable, from training new pilots to guiding drone operations through an evolving regulatory landscape. We'll explore his journey from flight instructor to entrepreneur, his passion for education, and his insights on where drone technology and regulation are headed. Greg, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. I'm really excited.
So, Greg, you've got some early roots in aviation. Why don't you talk to us about where the love of aviation began?
Yeah, you bet. It started very early. My parents always say, as early as being 4 years old or 5 years old, um, I would talk about wanting to be a pilot. And I had an uncle who was a pilot for Northwest Airline. If you remember Northwest Airline, they were based in Minnesota. He was a captain on 747. He flew routes to Tokyo all the time. And I always heard about him, flying these aircraft. And my dad was in the military, so I used to go on base with him. I didn't grow up in this country. I grew up in France. So I used to go on base with him. And we would see Mirage 2000s flying around, taxiing in front of his office. And that was kind of when I just started loving
That's
aircraft.
inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, you see these military jets flying over the country. We lived in the country, and you would see them flying over. Back then they would go past the speed of sound all the time, so you'd hear the windows shaking, and it was just a big part of what I did as a kid. So yeah,
That's incredible. It's funny. I have not the same story, but seeing military jets, I remember seeing the F-4 Phantoms flying. I've got family in Israel and seeing them flying, training, and I don't even know, maybe not training. Well, actually, I did hear sound barriers being broken. It was incredible. It had a really lasting effect on me as well. So I can completely relate there. But you did something that I didn't, and you took it to the next level. So talk to us about your journey now. How did it continue on from the dream to the reality?
yeah. When I went to high school, I was either going to go into the military and fly those military jets, or I was going to become an airline pilot. And I found a school that would get me ready to go to the US, which is where I wanted to live my whole life, and become an airline pilot. Literally, they had a poster in the hallway that said, "Become an airline pilot in the United States." And if it's not like screaming at your face when this is your dream, I don't know what is. And my uncle, I was fortunate enough that my uncle, who was an airline pilot, decided that he was going to help me accomplish this. Obviously, he lived in the U.S. and made it possible for me to come here. And I did 2 years in France, getting ready to come to the U.S. to do my 4-year degree. Finished my degree in Florida at the Florida Institute of Technology. It's called Florida Tech now. And eventually stayed and worked at FIT for many, many years. I stayed there for 13 years working in their flight training department, and then kind of moving up the company ladder inside of FIT.
That's wonderful. So eventually, though, the entrepreneurial bug must have been kind of brewing deep inside you. What happened next?
Yeah, my wife went to do her master's degree in Flagstaff, which is north of where I am now. I live in Prescott, Arizona. And she said, you would probably enjoy it. So I was in Florida for 13 years. Yeah, the weather was getting to me, the cold summer and the warm summer, and that's the only two seasons you get. I'm an outdoors guy, so we have a ton of mountains around here. And it was kind of time for me to move on to the next thing. So I found this company here, a flight school, that was looking for somebody to manage the whole flight school. And I jumped on the opportunity and moved to Prescott. So as I was doing all of this, I realized quickly that the collegiate environment is very different from the small flight school environment. At the collegiate level, we had ground school where we had professors on campus that were teaching the ground school. So we never had to worry about ground school knowledge. The students knew their stuff. But when I came to this little flight school, the instructors were complaining all the time that the ground school was not good. And I said, well, what do we do for ground school? And I said, well, we use this and we use that. And the students are not ready. They're getting a grade on the exam, and that's it. They don't have the knowledge. And it kind of stayed in my head for a long time. I was like, how can we do this better? And I had taught ground school at the university, and I had I always enjoy teaching, and I said, well, maybe I can do this on my own. And so I started my own course, put it on this little platform called, well, not little, on this platform called Udemy, where there's not a whole lot of content, but you for aviation, but you can put your courses. They're cheap, and the feedback was amazing. So I said, well, maybe I'm onto something here. So little did we know, I met my business partner, Johan, and we worked together at creating this entity, Pilot Institute, that would teach the next generation of pilots and teach it differently, not in a way where you're learning questions in a database of questions, but in a way where you're actually learning something so that you can take your written exam, but you can also take your oral exam with a DPE and know what you're talking about. And here we are now.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about the mission of Pilot Institute and what you've built. How are you making aviation training clear and engaging and affordable for people today? Bridging that gap from what you saw that was missing and what you've now built.
Yeah. The main goal for me, and like you said, it's trying to make aviation more affordable for people, and that's kind of a big deal. We know how expensive it's become to become a pilot, and the way that we do this is by not having you do things in the airplane. You know, we do online training. We have the ability to provide you with this training that you can watch over and over and over again until you get it, or you can get a different way getting explained to you so that you don't have to do these things in the cockpit. I'll give you the perfect example. The learning about the aircraft, right? It's great to be able to go to the aircraft with your flight instructor one-on-one and then go and walk around the aircraft and learn about all the systems. But you can also do it with us with actually a free course that we offer to flight schools, to any students. And it's a 2-hour deep dive. And so if you fly in a Cessna 172, you can go and take this deep dive. You can listen to me for 2 hours walking around the aircraft. I have a crew that follows me with high quality cameras. We have animations. We zoom on different parts of the aircraft and we explain all the systems. And when you do that, by the time you meet with your flight instructor, there should be a review. It should not be a brand new topic that you start with your flight instructor. It should be a review of what you've seen with us online. And we've kind of approached everything that we can teach online, which is basically everything but the actual flying of the airplane. This should be done in a controlled environment where we have beautiful animations, where we have content that you can interact with. We have a VR app that you can put on and end up in a hangar where you can pre-flight an airplane. And as you pre-flight the airplane, it gives you information about the aircraft. But not only that, it shows you all of the systems that are hidden inside the wings. Have you ever seen a fuel tank? No. But if you put the goggles on, you can see the fuel tank in transparency inside the wings. Have you seen what an engine looks like in transparency when it's turned on? Probably not. But with the goggles, now you can do that because we have the app. When you click on the engine, it starts spinning. You can see the pistons moving. You can see the valves opening and closing. You can see the prop turning. And all of these things that you can't do in real life, we're trying to do in the virtual world or, watching a video online. And we have beautiful animations. We have world-class animators. And I'm not kidding. These guys are world-class animators that create these animations and help you understand these concepts. When you guys learn, I'm sure you had an instructor that was drawing things on the whiteboard. I don't want that. I want the best possible 3D animation that you can get. And we don't need the instructors to do that. We need instructors to be in the airplane teaching you how to fly the aircraft. So we have a ton of tools. This is just one of the 2 tools that we have available to save you time and money so that by the time you get to the aircraft, you've seen these things and it's just a review with your flight instructor and you're not spending $200 an hour or $300 an hour to learn that.
That's fantastic. It's kind of funny. Right before we started recording the show, Ian and I were both trading stories about our 13-year-old boys wasting time on a VR headset. This seems like a much better use of
Oh, no
anyone's
doubt.
time. It's really kind of amazing how applicable this is in a real business case scenario here to really learn something, which is just absolutely incredible.
If I can add, since you mentioned this, the next generation of students, which is what we're hoping to teach, is not going to it is going to learn with these pieces of technology. They're going to learn with VR. They're going to learn with augmented reality. They're going to learn by watching things that are attractive to them. So that's what we're trying to provide.
Yeah, keep their attention with stuff that they're familiar with or understand in a way, right? If my kid was learning how to fly an aircraft as opposed to building something in a VR world with his friends, I probably wouldn't have kicked him out of the house to go to the pool today. Go get that PPL and start working towards that career. Dad needs a retirement. Let's go. But no, that's awesome. You guys are using that tech to advance that.
All right. So let's, these tools are amazing. Let's talk about your student success stories. Do you have any memorable examples of people who've achieved their goals, whether it's as a pilot or as a drone pilot, which is something we haven't even touched upon yet? Talk to us about that first, then we kind of dive into the whole drone topic.
Yeah. Yeah. On the airplane side, I have quite a few of these stories that we get on a regular basis of people saying, this changed my life, or especially on the drone side, quite frankly, drones have this power. We'll get to that. On the airplane side, my favorite story ever is this mother of a young kid who wants to become a pilot, and she used to be a CFI, and because of life, she had to kind of give that up, and she always wanted to be an airline pilot, but because of life, she had to give that up. And so her kid gets the course, and she's watching over his shoulder. She's like, "Oh man, I love this." She's watching the content, and she said, "I want to get back into this. I'm finally at a point in my life now where I can make this happen." And so she gets the course for herself. She watches the PPL course again to get her CFI back and active. And she starts flying instructing. And then before you know it, she's messaging me. I've been in touch with her for a while now. And she said, I'm going to apply for the airlines. And she's sharing this story because we changed her life. Like, we made this happen.
Yeah.
And last I talked to her was before Sun and Fun, and she had an interview with the airlines, and then she got the job. So now she's going to be flying line because her kid wanted to become a pilot, found the thing. She loved the way that we were teaching those concepts and got her back into aviation. So it doesn't get any better than that. Like,
So
you can
cool.
see the hair on my arms.
Yeah, no, that's
amazing.
goosebump story. I love that stuff. That's truly making a difference and touching people. And, it's like wonderful that you can run a business that's for profit and really help people and move the needle. And it seems like you're really hitting the nail on the head.
So, I mean, we've kind of already approached this topic, so let's just dive into drones and that side of the industry and what you're doing to bring that to the forefront with your business. But where are we right now as far as drones, the technology, what they're being used for, and give us an overview of maybe what people could see, for a career out of getting a drone certificate as opposed to a regular private pilot's license or, anything else at this point in their life.
When we look at the airplane side compared to drones, on the airplane side, we always think about, hey, you're going to be an airline pilot, but mostly you're going to be transporting passengers or cargo. That's kind of the true purpose of the aircraft, right? Going on a cross-country flight. On the drone side, it's very different. The drone is a tool that is going to carry a sensor, and the sensor can be taking photos, it can be taking videos, which is what most people think about when they think about drones, but it can carry a sensor that is going to smell gas leaks. It can carry a sensor that is an infrared sensor that is going to do thermal imaging. So for police departments, fire departments, they're able to carry this sensor that can tell them where there is a human, where there is a fire, and be able to identify the source of the fire potentially for fire departments. We're talking about stories. I have so many stories from fire departments that said this saves lives. It saves the lives of our people on the ground, but of the people that we're trying to find, because in the winter, grandpa get lost because he's losing his mind, which happens, right? And then walks out the house and it's negative 10 degrees outside. And then now you have to find them within hours, minutes. They deploy a drone, and usually within minutes, they're able to find somebody who's lost in the woods at night, when you couldn't do that, with a ground crew. It takes them hours to do that.
Search and rescue is huge. I know. I'm glad you brought that up, and I want to let you finish. I think that um, telling some stories about that is fantastic because there's a lot there that we can appreciate. My fiance's father does this. He has a drone that he helps the local departments go out and find people or pets that are missing, and he's traveled all over the country. What else are people using these pieces of technology and tools for. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. Inspections, roof inspections, so you don't have to send a person on the roof to go inspect a roof. That's actually a very dangerous activity. People die, people break their legs. Sending people inside of nuclear power plants is very dangerous. So instead, we can send a drone to do an inspection. We can have drones that do routine inspections daily. They get sent, they're in the dock, they fly, they go doing inspections of power lines. You have like we talked about public safety, drone delivery is one of these things as well that we see out there. We can see airlines now that are inspecting the tails of large aircraft inside of a hangar using a drone instead of going on a cherry picker. So drones it's a tool that's going to carry a sensor that's going to collect data. It's a flying camera, and then it can carry really all sorts of things on top of it. In disaster areas, we see there's been, for example, a hurricane, and we never really think about this, but you send a team after a hurricane happens to go into a city. The city doesn't look anything like the map that you see on Google Earth. The streets may be covered with debris. The houses may have disappeared completely. Same with tornadoes, same with other things. So now we can actually send a drone, and within minutes, they can come back and create a map, a 2D map or a 3D map of the area, of the disaster area. And you can overlay that map on top of Google Earth. And you can say, this is what it looks like now. This is where we're going to send a team, and this is what it's going to look like. You can have a drone going inside of a house to map the inside of a house for a police department so they can figure out how many rooms there are, even see if there is somebody inside the house, so they can decide if they want to send a SWAT team or if they want to do something else, with the data. So it's a data collection tool that it is used in hundreds of different scenarios. I can go on for hours telling you all the things that people do with it.
It's kind of incredible how many different channels you just mentioned in the last 5 minutes and how many opportunities there are out there. So talk to us more from the Pilot Institute's perspective. Which is the bigger business right now? Is it drone training or pilot training?
It's close. It's about 60% for us on the drone side, about 40% on the airplane side. But there's a reason behind this. We also started heavily on drones very early in the life of Pilot Institute, because this was an industry that was booming and it was going really fast. And I knew that if we didn't jump on that early on, then we were going to miss. We were going to miss the heydays. And so we spent a lot of time, a lot of resources growing that. As we grew the airplane side more slowly, because, well, I knew it was going to be there in a few years when we came back. And now we're at the point where we've really developed the drone side really well, that we can now finally spend time, in building the airplane side. That's why we spend a lot more time now on airplane content in general.
Between the two, and this is just kind of a random question, forgive my ignorance on it, but are you seeing people maybe that want to be a regular pilot that then decide, the drone path is more for me or easier for me to get into, to then turn a career into it? Is that something that's kind of a reality right now?
Yes, a lot. And the other way around too. You'd be surprised. So we see people that used to fly, they lost their medical certificate, but they want to see that bird's eye view, from something a lot cheaper. And we see people that have a pilot license and they don't have the money to spend on renting an aircraft all the time, but they still get that bird's eye view right there. And we also see people that do the opposite. They catch the bug, is what I call it.
Yeah, I believe it.
They start with drones and they're like, hey, you know what? I've done the Part 107 test, which is the commercial drone pilot license. And they're like, I wonder what private pilot looks like. And it's private pilot. It's Part 107 plus. You add a little bit of knowledge, but you're kind of upgrading your knowledge. And we see a ton of people.
You
we were
learn
at
how to read a
Oshkosh.
sectional, right? That's half the battle.
That's half the battle, exactly. Then it's regulation and, of course, flying. But we see people, we were at Oshkosh a couple of weeks ago. We see a ton of people that come in and said, yeah, I started with drones and then now I'm doing airplane. And I always ask, I said, is it because you did the drone first? And they're like, yep.
Greg,
pretty
I
much
can
every single
actually
time.
attest to that's exactly what happened to me, a different era. So before there were drones, it was RC airplanes. And you actually, in my area in Brooklyn, New York, there was a field there. There's a club. You had to get a some sort of certification from the American Modelers Association. I got that. Started flying the RC, the nitro powered RC airplanes. Loved it. and then started taking flying lessons. Yeah. Eventually
Yep.
I was like, I want to be up there. It's
I
fun
believe it.
flying them, but I want to be up there. I got my private pilot's license right after I kind of wrapped up my RC days. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. I
Yeah.
can second that.
Well, let's talk about regulation. You mentioned this a little bit already, but when it comes to Part 107, what are we looking at? What's the current climate in that space, as far as regulatory um, evolution from what it used to be? I mean, maybe even all the way back to Rob's RC days, but where are we at with that side of getting a certificate currently?
Yep. Yeah. So the FAA came up with this Part 107 certificate almost a decade ago now, and it's a test. So it's only a test that you have to do on a computer at a testing center. Very much, if you're a private pilot, it's like your knowledge test that you did. It's 60 questions, multiple choice, similar topics to what we see on the private pilot. Heavy on airspace, heavy on regulation, heavy on CRM and ADM, and basically trying to make sure these folks are safe to fly these drones in the airspace with everybody else. But once you have that, you can technically charge for your time flying the drone. But there's also this little carve out, we call it, for recreational pilots. So Rob, what you were saying, when you were flying with the AMA, there is a carve out that makes it easier for people to fly drones recreationally. The caveat is that you have to do it just for fun. You can't do anything more complex. You can't take money. You can't take photos to give to other people. Like it's pretty restrictive. But if you have a kid and they want to go learn to fly, that's the best way to do it. So yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment. Now the FAA is making a lot of changes to drone regulation on a semi-regular basis. I would say from the scale of the FAA, that's regular every couple of years. But we see changes. They're listening for sure. At the moment, everything is done within visual line of sight. This line of sight thing is a kind of a key word in this industry. And the FAA just last week released new regulation, proposed regulation for flying beyond visual line of sight. And as you might expect, a lot of folks want to do things more in a more complex manner. They want to fly drone delivery. They want to be able to do power line inspections without having to keep the drone within line of sight. They want to do agriculture. This is one that I even haven't mentioned yet, but using large drones, very large drones, we're talking 1,000-pound drones, to go and spray crop in certain areas, and not only that, but be able to have a specific sensor. It's called an NDVI sensor that captures plant health information and is going to tell the farmer, hey, you need to go spray there, but you don't need to spray there. And so now you can send a drone that's going to go spray that specific area, so we don't have to do mass spraying of all the crops. So this is the future to me in agriculture. I think if you're in agriculture, start looking at how you can utilize drones. And this new proposed regulation, which is Part 108, so 107, 108, is going to try to make this more routine. It's complicated. We actually just filmed a video right before this on the whole thing. It's 700 pages of proposed regulation, and it's complex.
That's a lot of regulation. Yeah, and I know that BV loss has been the talk of the town for drone pilots for years, and it's good to see. I know the FAA is very methodical, but it looks like they're finally addressing it, and this is kind of big news for everyone, and specifically you. So I'm glad that you had to read the 700 pages and not me. but I'm sure you're going to do the most with that. Okay.
Yes.
So I really want to shift gears right now and talk about your YouTube channel. As a podcaster right now, I'm really curious to see how things are going with you, because it seems like you've really been blowing up. You have a devout following over here with both pilots and the drone operators. Talk to us more about your journey into YouTube. I don't know. Are we going to call you an influencer? What you're an instructor.
No,
I'm not
don't.
quite sure where what we categorize you these days, but talk to us more about your YouTube experience and journey.
Call me an educator, not an influencer.
Okay, that's much better. I like the sound of that too.
The YouTube is the number one platform to learn things. There's no way to put it any differently. So YouTube and the other social media, Instagram and TikTok to a lesser extent for us, but these are important places for us to be. This is where we have the ability to showcase what we do and to help people. We have a ton of free content available for people that want to get started in drones or airplane, and YouTube is another great way to do this. So I can't take credit for the YouTube stuff. I have an amazing team behind me that helps to do all this. I'm just the guy on camera, really. We have script writers. We have people who obviously are behind the camera that do an amazing job. We have people that do post-production, beautiful animations, and do all the research on the topics that we need to do. So it's more than just me. Obviously, the whole company is a lot more than just me, but I'm the guy that you see all the time, and I'm the one who gets all the compliment. But to be fair, the whole team is in the shadow doing all the hard work.
Yeah, I love your humility. I think you all deserve credit. And for those listening at home and not viewing, Greg is sitting at his set right now, and it's truly impressive. They know how to make a presentation. So as far as the channel itself, what was your expectations when you first started doing this? Now, obviously, you have a big team right now, but didn't start that way. So, talk to us about your journey from the first video you created to where you are right now.
Yeah, for me, it was going to be a supplement. I started the channel actually before we even had Pilot Institute. If you go back to the very first few videos, there's no logo because Pilot Institute didn't exist. The one thing that I wanted to do, and this was primarily on the drone side, was to keep my students updated on the regulation changes, because it changes a lot on the drone side. And so I started this thing called Weekly News Update. And we just did 370th episode, I think, recorded last week. We do this every Friday. We haven't missed a single Friday since we started doing this. And we talk to people about, it's a 5 to 7 minute update, talk to them about the changes that happen in this week in UAS. And that blew up. I mean, I have so many people when I go to conferences now that come and say, "Oh, I've watched your thing every week," and it just love it. But then it became obviously this platform where we can again showcase what we do and show people that we exist and that we're one of the leading company out there that has the knowledge and the ability to showcase that information, not just do dances on TikTok and be an influencer.
So, Greg, most of our audience, all 13 of them that are out there on the webs listening to us at this point, are in the business aviation space. So explain to us, me, Rob, everybody, what a 107 certificate can do for somebody in the business aviation space, or how that technology is finding its way into BizAv.
It will allow you to operate the drone legally with the FAA, in the airspace. What I would say to anyone who's in this space, in aviation business at the moment, keep an eye on drones. Not even just keep an eye, get involved with drones, because it's a technology that's not only here to stay, but it's a technology that's been taken over. We have now talks about drones having more priority than some manned aircraft. This is a new Part 108 that we haven't even talked about, but the drones are going to be part of the ecosystem, right? And then not only drones, we have airplanes and helicopters, but also we have the UTM, the larger drones, if you want, that are going to be transporting people from inside of cities, for example. That's also another big topic it's called AAM. Advanced air mobility is kind of the buzzword, if you want. I would look at all of these things because I think traditional aviation used to be the one and only thing, and now there's different industries that are building around it, and it's changing quickly. So don't miss don't miss your time to join.
Yeah. Whisk is definitely the platform to watch right now. I think the CEO is ex-Boeing, or they're backed by Boeing, but they're all in on autonomy. They are going to be drones that fly people. Do you think, while we have you here, is that going to become a reality? Are humans going to go up in the air in drones?
100%. In AAM for sure, no doubt. And these will be, Yeah, if you're seeing what's going on right now with the war between Tesla and the other the other taxis, to get
Waymo,
people
yeah.
from point A to
Waymo.
point B, Waymo, yeah. The same is happening in our airspace, and we'll have the same thing where people are going to be flying inside of these aircraft in no time. I think in no time. When I see what the FAA just released with this new regulation, they are jumping on something that we've never seen before: autonomy of aircraft. At the moment, no people inside of them, but that is coming. That is 100% coming. So I would say in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to be bold, 5 to 10 years, we're going to see people
We're going to
doing
hold you
this.
to it, and hopefully invite you back on the show before then. But
Yeah.
I'd love to bring this topic back up. In 5 years is a good window. I would say that's aggressive in my opinion, but you know more than I do. So I would say if you're making that prediction, that's probably something to bet the house on here. I would believe you rather than taking my word for it.
Real quick, just kind of an off-key question, and I don't care where you throw this, but Greg, between manned aircraft and unmanned aircraft, you've got experience with both. What do you prefer to fly and be involved with? What's your favorite?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know that I have a favorite, just like you don't have a favorite child, right? Uh,
I do.
Good answer.
I do have a favorite child. Don't let anyone else know.
So I think it depends. It depends. I love the drones because it's so easy, affordable, and it's right there. I can go with my kids on the weekend and I can take a drone with me. We can have this footage from up in the air, and it's amazing. Rather than having a ground camera or having both. But then we have an airplane. We have a Diamond DA-40 with the company, and I love flying this thing around just to go from point A to point B. So it's got a different purpose, right? I do love teaching aviation, regardless of what it is. It's always cool to see people that are coming in that are drone pilots that typically don't know anything about aviation, and by the end of the course, they're paying attention. They go in the airplane and they're like, "Oh, I saw the taxiway signs because you taught the taxiway signs. I had never noticed these before." Or now I see airplanes flying around and I think traffic pattern, and I'm like, "Okay, well, my job is accomplished here. I've done my part." But then you have people like that story I mentioned earlier of Cindy, who goes in and now becomes an airline pilot after thinking that she probably would have never done that. So yeah, it's a close tie between the two.
So, Greg, this is something that kind of is what inspired this conversation in general. Anyways, I know you and I both work with an organization called Aviation Influence, and that's how we know each other. So this little spot is going to be more about inspiring future aviators, drone operators, and kind of feeding back some advice to them. So I guess want to talk about what your mindset for success is. How are you encouraging curiosity and continuous learning for the next generation and getting people engaged with aviation as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's so important that we get that next generation interested, right? We can't have pilots in the cockpit of a 737 in 10 years if we don't start to tell kids, hey, this is something that you can do, and this is something that you can do that is somewhat affordable, not the way that it is right now. We're losing a lot of people now because of the cost. So it kind of goes back to our discussion earlier. But yeah, it's always been something for me. I had a mentor. We talked about this. I had a person who helped me, who gave me that little nudge and said, hey, this is something that you can do, and help me accomplish it. So I want to be able to do the same thing. But this is something that we can accomplish through, organizations like Aviation Influence and seeing how we can put our heads together to bring the next generation together. It's a necessity. It's a necessity. We have to do this. We have to bring new technology. We have to keep the kids interested in this and show them there's a pathway.
Yeah.
So, Greg, I know a lot of people are obviously they're getting their information directly from you, but I'd love to hear where you're getting your information from. What training materials, communities, or must-read publications would you recommend to your audience and your followers to kind of, if they want to take a deeper dive, where should they head to?
Yeah, the FAA, I mean, we get most of our stuff from FAA publications. So we keep an eye on what the FAA does. We go to conferences, we talk to other people. We are a big sponsor of NAFI, the National Association of Flight Instructors, where we can talk to industry professionals, talk to CFIs, and we listen to our customers. A lot of our customers now are CFIs. They've grown to become teachers for other people, and we listen to them. That's why we go to these trade shows and meet with them, take pictures with them, but they always have feedback. So yeah, that information it comes from a ton of different sources, and we watch the news, the aviation news. We subscribe to AvWeb, for example. I get their email every morning, and I get to see also what's going on. But my first hour, pretty much every morning, is reading what's going on in the world of drones and airplanes, just to stay on top of it. And I have a team that does that as well. So we get together and we discuss these stuff. Hey, did you see this? And the first hour of the day is a main discussion between all of us.
And yeah, I think in the end, it's one of those things. I think it sounds like it's, your output is greater than the sum of its parts here, and you have enough good heads together, and you're diving deep in the resources, and I think that's the reason why your channel is so valuable to so many
Yeah,
people and your education as well. Um,
thank you.
Greg, we're coming up on time right now. Can you basically share with everyone at home how they can reach you online?
Yeah, absolutely. Pilotinstitute.com is the website where all of our courses are. And again, like I said, we have free resources as well. This is not a sales pitch by any mean. And then on YouTube, you can find we have two channels. We have Pilot Institute, which is the drone channel, and Pilot Institute Airplane, which is the airplane channel. And the same goes for TikTok and for Instagram. We have two channels for each of these. So we have a total of 6 channels together that we are maintaining, which is a lot of fun.
That's good stuff. All right, Greg. Well, listen, we'll make sure we leave those links in the show notes. And I just want to give you a big thank you from us for joining us today and sharing your journey from flight instructor to the co-founder of Pilot Institute. You're clearly making an impact with your audience, and really appreciate what you're doing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So Greg's work is not just about teaching skills, it's about opening the skies to more people, and whether they're in the cockpit or the controls of a drone. That's it for this episode of The Crosscheck. I'm Rob Hoffman, and as always, if you enjoyed the show, be sure to leave us a review, like, and share it with a friend. Stay tuned as we've got more stories coming your way from the flight deck of business aviation. Thanks for listening.